The beautiful Aaliyah once said in her song, "If at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again. Try again." But you know what? Honestly, sometimes, now that I think about it, it's really just okay to give up because clearly in this case, you are just not that good of a criminal.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast, a podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. So, some of you have heard this particular episode because it was on the Facebook Live episode that I hosted last Saturday. Thank you for those that were able to attend. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely enjoyed kicking back and talking with you all. I will say though that the Facebook group is going to be closed by September 15th because there is like absolutely no activity in there. Like, I don't know. I've tried with it, I've tried different things with it and trying to get people to interact. So, maybe I'll do it again one day, but now yeah, not gonna happen. So, like I said, just a heads up, by September 15th, the Facebook group will be closed. You'll still be able to, of course, send a friend request to the Facebook page. But as far as the private discussion group, it's no more. Anywho, so this week is another episode that is out of Ohio, and I swear I'm really starting to question anybody that lives in that state because what the hell? Like, y'all will see what I mean in a second. Like, I really hope y'all got y'all snacks together. I got a simple snack tonight. One of my favorite tasty apples that's covered in caramel and chocolate and nuts from the apple basket. Check your local listing to see if there is one near you. I strongly recommend that you try the Kanakatak apple. Um, so that is my snack for the evening. For my drink, I'm just doing a simple little, nice mimosa. Um, I do plan on drinking several of the mimosas throughout this episode, FYI. So hope y'all are ready. Okay. Y'all ready to get into it? Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. This week's episode involves Melissa Latham, surviving victim, Kyle Martin, accomplice, Tanika Clement, accomplice, and Tonica Jenkins, the infamous murderer, or rather, attempted murderer. All right, y'all. So this case is just beyond crazy. Like, some people are just determined to be criminals, and I swear Tanika is one of them. Like, after doing the research for this case, I quickly came to the conclusion that this girl is like a few fries short of a happy meal. Like, Shawty girl is she can't be all there. There's no way possible. But you'll see. All right. So Tanika Jenkins was born May 20th, 1975 to Tonica Clement. Jesus, Devonte Christ. The fact that her and her mama have the same spelling to their name and they pronounce it differently, like, that is so ghetto as hell. Like, both of their names are spelled Tonica. Hers is Tanika, her mom's is Tonica. Like, girl, ain't no difference. Okay. Now, for the purpose of this episode, we're gonna call her Mama, Mama T, okay? Because I'm not about to be saying Tonica, Tanika. It's too much. Tanika and Mama T. That's how we gonna do that, okay? So Tanika grew up in suburban East Cleveland, Ohio, and she had pretty much, a normal childhood. Everybody said that she was like very ambitious and serious about her education. And when I say serious about her education, I mean very serious. When she went to high school, she decided that she wanted to go to a prestigious college. So, after doing a semester at Cuyahoga Community College, she decided, you know what? I want to go to an Ivy League school. Mhm. And a lot of people, we've all at one point thought about an Ivy League school, Yale, Princeton, Harvard, MIT, all of that. Well, I don't want to say everybody, but for the most part, everybody has thought about college at some point. And the fact that she had such, goals and high standards is great. Um so where does she apply? Yale University. Yep, y'all heard that correct. She applied to attend Yale University, one of the most prestigious universities in the country out of Connecticut. Y'all see where this is going, right? So she only had like a semester of college at a community college at that. So, of course, I know many of you are thinking, how in the hell does somebody decide that they want to go to an Ivy League college for grad school, not just to get the bachelor's? No, no. Tanika wanted to go for her master's at Yale. So, how do you apply for grad school, but you haven't even gone to college? Like you did a semester at a community college. How is this going to happen? But y'all remember, she's ambitious. She's a go-getter. She going to get it done, okay? So she forges a bunch of documents, writes some letters of recommendations to herself, and one of the letters of recommendations was from the Cuyahoga Community College. Why the hell she would do that? I don't know. You got She also had a letter of recommendation from, Central University, and, so she submits all that information. I'm like, "Okay, first of all, the fact that you got 2 recommendation letters, one from Central University and then Cuyahoga Community College, like, this is Yale you're applying to, sweetie. Automatically, you're making yourself look guilty." But she forges that, she submits GRE scores, all kind of stuff. And she actually gets admitted into Yale. Not only does she get admitted, but she gets admitted with $16,000 worth of scholarships. Okay? So remember, y'all, she only did a semester at Cuyahoga Community College and she never even attended Central State University. But in 1997, Tanika takes her full scholarship and moves to attend the university in New Haven, Connecticut for grad school. Now, there's a reason why they call it prestigious because Tanika, with her little ambitious ass, not only got into Yale, but she got into probably one of the most difficult programs, the neuroscience program. Now, here's the thing about that. They only admit like 8 to 10 students a year for this program. And because of her transcripts and her letters of recommendations, she was one of those students that was selected. Now, like I said, they gave her a scholarship plus living expenses. And then on top of that, because she's Black, she got a minority student scholarship through the American Psychological Association. So, with her getting these scholarships, and all of that, and actually being admitted, you would think that she got her shit together, right? Absolutely not. That would be too much like right. Tanika, you would think would at least do good since she's trying so hard to be a good student and to, become a neurobiologist. But nah, she fucked that all the way up. Her first semester, she's messing up. She's getting low grades, failing tests, all of that. And the school is like, hmm, how in the world is somebody with such great accolades and accomplishments not even taking the exams? And, they're questioning her on it, but she's just got excuse after excuse of why she's having, such a difficult time. And like, I mean, it's, oh, well, my family is sick. And, oh, well, I'm just going through so much right now. She's got so many excuses. Like, she got more excuses than a nigga going to jail. Pardon the expression. I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah, so like she's got all of these excuses, and it was like she wasn't even trying to be a good student. When it came time for the exams, she's missing them. Like she's not even trying to take the exams. How you making problems your first semester at grad school and at Yale of all places? Like, girl. Anyway, so at this point, the school is like, all right, something's not right with this. How is it that this girl is killing it in, Central College and all of that? And then all of a sudden, she gets here and she's not doing good at all. Now, of course, some people crack under the pressure when they begin, their collegiate journey. Not everybody is going to perform to the best of their capabilities, but the only thing that Tanika was performing good at was scamming. And it got to the point that because, she was making such a mess at this school that they got curious about it and did a little bit of investigating of their own. And they're like, "All right, this just ain't making no sense to us." So they start contacting people. They contact Central University and they're asking about Tanika's transcripts and her performance as a student there and, her letter of recommendation that they gave. And they're like, "Who? Well, we don't have a Tanika Jenkins. No student by that name graduated here." And, Yale is like, "Hmm, okay." So then they contact Cuyahoga Community College registration office and they find out that little Miss Tanika was only in college for a semester before she dropped out. And so the school is like, okay, we got your ass, bitch. We see what you doing. So once they get the proof that they need, Tanika is expelled from Yale University. And they then take it a step further and they contact the police. Why did they do that? Because Tanika took $16,000 in scholarship money. She falsified documents pretending that she had a degree. She unlawfully took the spot of someone that actually deserved one of those 8 to 10 spots at that school. So, because of this, she was arrested and charged with first degree larceny and second degree fraud. So in December of 1997, police get called and they come out to the school and Tanika is raising like all kinds of hell. She's kicking and screaming, cussing and carrying on. And so the cops throw her ass in the back of the car. Like, do y'all know that this girl tried to escape the police car? Seriously, once they came to the school to arrest her, they put her in the car. She actually tried to escape. So they're like, you know what? We're just going to tack on another charge since you tried that. And they charged her with attempting to escape police custody as well. So she gets taken to the police station where she's charged and booked. And, she's given an attorney, Norman Pattis. And Norman is like, look, you don't have anything else on your record. Yeah, you did some crazy shit. So, I would say that you don't need to just I would say that you need to just go ahead and plead guilty, but Tanika is like, "Psh, why do I need to plead guilty? I ain't do nothing wrong." So, the attorney is like, look, little girl, you are in the wrong. There's proof of you forging these documents, all of that. Just plead guilty to make it easier on yourself." But on her court date, Tanika doesn't show up. And naturally, everybody's concerned because you're claiming you're innocent and you're trying to prove your innocence so hard and you're trying to get off and everything. Never mind when you know, did all of this, you willingly took money that you knew you didn't deserve. But when she gets arrested, she gets the $10,000 bond and she bails herself out of jail. She's given a court date of July 22nd, 1998 to go before Judge Roland D. Fasano regarding the case, but she never shows up. And it's tripping the judge out because, you know, she's just not there. And he's like, yo, she was claiming all of this. I'm innocent. I'm innocent. I'm innocent. I didn't do this. And so he has to issue what's called a bench warrant for failure to appear. So the cops, they go looking for her and they go to her house in East Cleveland, Ohio, where Tanika just sitting and relaxing, like comfortable at home. Like this girl is relaxed. Like, bitch, do you not realize that you missed a whole court date? And I guess she just decided, oh, I don't feel like going. But little Miss Ambitious Tanika is two steps ahead. Her attorney is like, yo, what the hell is wrong with you? Where were you? Why you didn't come to court? And she's like, oh, yeah, there's a good reason for that. The reason is because I was kidnapped and raped. Yeah. According to Tanika, on July 22nd, 1998, that morning, she was at a shopping mall in New Haven, Connecticut, and she was approached at gunpoint and forced into the trunk of her car. She says, well, I was shopping and this man just came up and he walked up to me and he approached me with a gun and he made me get into the trunk of my car. And he just drove me to this location. Like, I don't know where it was. And he raped me. And, on a side note, I wonder if while she was out shopping, were you using the money that the school gave you? Anyway, but yeah, so she's like, well, he raped me. And then when he was done, he put me back into the trunk of the car again and he drove to Philadelphia and he just like stopped the car and got out. And so I drove myself back home, where I'm safe. And I contacted the police department and I filed a report. And, I went to the hospital and everything. That's why I didn't go to court because I'm just so, I was traumatized. I was too busy fighting for my life. And the prosecution is like, really? Okay. Well, tell you what. Why don't you go before the judge and tell him this shit? And so that's exactly what she does. She goes before Superior Court Judge Richard Damiani. I hope I said that right. And she tells the judge, listen, I was kidnapped and raped. I don't know what happened, but I feel like it was because I made Yale look bad. It was some racist people that did it to me. And the judge is like, what the fuck? Like, this story was so far fetched and just so all over the place. And see, this is why I say if you're going to scam or if you're going to lie, make it a believable one because, bitch, this one, it don't make no sense. The day you're supposed to go to court, you get kidnapped and raped at gunpoint because you made the school look bad and all of this was from a racist and you wait until the next day to report it. Oh, not to mention she said they left her the keys. So they left you the keys to your car so that you could drive yourself safely back from Philadelphia to East Cleveland, Ohio, and not New Haven, Connecticut, where you were supposed to be going to trial. Okay. So the judge was like, nope, lock her dumb ass up. And that's exactly what happened. Her ass got sent to the New York Correctional Institute in Niantic, and the judge raised her bond from $10,000 to $15,000. Or excuse me, no, to $150,000. So she gets to the jail, and her being in jail, it didn't calm her ass down not one bit. During her 3 weeks of being in jail, Tanika ends up biting two of the officers. You heard me right. I didn't say fighting with an F. I said biting with a B. Yes, she ends up biting two of the officers that worked at the jail. Now, y'all remember what I just told y'all because that's going to come in handy later. Okay. So she bites these two officers and she actually does bail herself out of jail. And her attorney is like, will you please just take this damn plea bargain that the prosecutors are trying to give you? I'm trying to help your ass. They trying to tell you that if you plead guilty, you ain't gonna do much time. Listen to me, your attorney. But she doesn't. She don't want to take it. Nope. She still maintains her innocence. Now, it took several months later before Tanika's attorney, Norman, gets an anonymous letter in the mail, and he immediately takes it to the judge. It's a letter that's accusing former graduate school dean Thomas Applequist, associate dean Richard Slate, and Professor Haig Cayenne that all three reviewed her application in a racist conspiracy to have her arrested. And of course, they denied any of the allegations. Like, they're like, hey, the application decisions are handled by individual departments and programs, not individual people. But it was what came with the letter that was the crazy part to me. See, there was this picture of Tanika where she was bound and gagged. Immediately when I saw the picture, I just knew that this was some bullshit. Like, her eyes were all bugged out and it looked like she was posing. Like, it was giving early America's Next Top Model. Like, give me scary face. Like, she was looking dead at the camera, eyes wide, false fear. And so the judge sees it and basically just dismisses it because he's like, "This is fake as fuck. No, we not doing this." Not to mention, she said that she filed a police report. She never did. But, the judge was cool. He gave Norman a week to, kind of investigate what was going on. And so when the week was up, Judge Fasano actually took away the plea bargain that the prosecutor had offered her. So he issued a gag order restraining both Norman and the state's attorney, David Gold, from discussing any details of the case with members of the media, and he took away her plea deal. So eventually, she pleads guilty, and the judge ended up sentencing her to 3 years of probation and also ordered her to undergo psychiatric counseling. I know that's right, because clearly this bitch needed it because, woo, she is off her rocker. But one of the conditions, in addition to her being on probation, was that she repay the $16,000 that she stole in restitution. So, you know, keep in mind, she's forged documents. She got into grad school illegally. She accepted money that basically she didn't earn, or deserve. She gets found out. She gets kicked out of school and is facing serious jail time. But she's lucky that she didn't get any. Now, with all of this, wouldn't it make you say, okay, you know what? I got to stop the scamming. I got to get my life right. Do you think that it would, make you say like, "Okay, you know what? I really gotta do better." Nope. Not for Tanika. This is the part where I say that, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree because her mama was right there doing bullshit with her. Mama T, aka Tonica Clement. Now, Tonica was born February 20th of 1949. Now, of course, there's not much on her childhood, of course, because she wasn't really the main focus of this episode. But like I said, the apple damn sure doesn't fall too far from the tree. So after her daughter gets out of jail, and it's by the grace of God that she's not doing any more jail time for this serious crime, Tanika is, back home with Mama T. And now, she can't really go to school or anything because she done fucked up this money and yeah, scammer. Not to mention she's got to pay back $16,000 in restitution. And it's been a couple of months, since she's done anything. So she's thinking and thinking and thinking like, damn, I got to pay this money back. How am I going to do this? How am I going to pay $16,000? Well, March of 2000, Tanika decides that she now wants to be a drug dealer to get the money. And she figures, hey, go big or go home. So her and Mama T decide that they're going to take their little selves to Florida. They go from Euclid, Ohio to Tampa, Florida. And they decide that they want to purchase 22 pounds of cocaine, which is damn near 10 keys. Okay. Damn near 10 kilograms. Now, I had to do some research on this, but a kilogram of cocaine ranges anywhere between 13,000 to 26,000 per kilo. So to have damn near 10 keys, that's potentially $130,000 or more worth of cocaine. Now, normally this would make sense, you know, for a drug dealer to do this shit, but this is Tanika we're talking about. So she and Mama T take $70,000 that they have, which is crazy to me because if you owe $16,000 in restitution, why the hell didn't you just pay that back out of that 70,000 or have your mama pay it back? But instead, you want to be damn El Chapo or fucking Griselda Blanco and take your ass all the way to Tampa, Florida and buy cocaine. Here's the funny thing though, because it was such a large amount that they wanted to buy, they put the word out and they're like, yo, hey, if y'all know anybody that, can sell some cocaine to us, let us know. We trying to get a bunch of keys because we trying to take over. We gonna sell all over Ohio. So a tip comes into the FBI that Tanika and Mama T are looking to purchase a large amount of cocaine. So, FBI gets this tip and they're like, all right, good to know. And so they start communicating with somebody that's in Tampa. And guess who it is? A damn DEA agent. So he's telling Mama T everything that she wants to hear. Yeah, we got some good products. Just come on down to Tampa. We'll get you taken care of. So they take the $70,000. And on July 10th, 2000, Tanika and Mama T go to Tampa, Florida. And Mama T, Lord, you got me saying Mama D. Oof. Mama T does like majority of the transactions. Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to the drug game, if you are, planning to be a distributor of drugs, then it's technically not illegal until money has exchanged hands. Like if I go say, "Oh, I'm gonna go buy some drugs," I'm gonna go get 10 keys from, so and so down the block. I can technically go, but you can't touch me unless I hand you money. Then you can lock my ass up. So just keep that in mind, okay? So, like I said, they're in Florida and Mama T is doing a majority of the transaction. So like she tests the drugs. She's got the $70,000 in her bag. And so they meet with this undercover DEA agent. And the minute that they sit down, she tests the cocaine. And she's like, all right, this is good. This is good. And so, oh boy, is like, all right, cool. We got a deal. What's up? And she hands him the $70,000. Stupid ass. So she hands him the money, and then the next thing you know, agents just come flooding. They're like, boom, 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 get out, get on the fucking ground, get out. And once again, Tanika's like, "Psh, don't worry, Ma, I got this." She comes up with a crazy story. And she tells the officers that she is an FBI informant and that she was sent to Tampa, Florida to uncover a drug ring by Special Agent Todd Platt. Like, what the hell? So it's discovered that, Tanika is not in fact working with the FBI, and it doesn't take long for, her prior record with the school scandal to pop up. because, mind you, she's still on probation for these 3 years. So she gets arrested along with her mother, and they're both charged with conspiracy and possession of cocaine with the intent to distribute. But her attorneys worked out a deal which is fucking crazy to me. Not only was this girl able to not go to jail, but she was able to take her ass back to Ohio with no jail time. All she had to do was go to court April 23rd, 2001, and wear a ankle monitor. And so this is where I'm starting to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
and I'm not saying that toward Tanika. I'm saying that towards the system. Here's the thing. In order for them to actually be tried, why the fuck would you give them bond? For 10 keys? Why would you give somebody like that bond? And then, less than 3 months from her being bailed out and going through everything that she went through the first time, here she is again committing another crime. And this time with her mother. She's got $70,000 in cash that she can just willingly blow on cocaine. That is a true flight risk. Why in the hell would you allow someone like that to be on the street and not locked up awaiting their trial? That's where the state of Florida fucked up. They allowed her to bail out or bond out or whatever. I don't know, maybe because the original case was, out of New Haven, Connecticut, that she was able to, postpone in another state, because I'm thinking that if it was in the same state where she had been charged prior, she would have, been kept in jail. But her lucky ass got out yet again. So at this point, she knows that they're, facing some serious jail time. This ain't no simple, oh, you just got to pay back restitution. Like your ass drove across state lines with $70,000 in cash to purchase drugs, and you ended up purchasing it from a damn DEA agent. But, Tanika didn't let this bother her. She went back home to Euclid, Ohio, and she was living her best life. Like, but she's low key worried that she could go to prison for a really long time because of what she and her mother did. So she's got this ankle bracelet, or rather an ankle monitor on her. And it's kind of like slowing her down a bit. So she's thinking and thinking and thinking. And, she says, you know what? I got it. They can't put somebody in prison if they dead. So around this time, Tanika had a cousin named Kyle Martin. And Kyle had just gotten out of prison himself, not too long ago. He had done like 6 or 7 years in prison for some other stuff. So he gets out and he moves to Springfield, Ohio. And, he's trying to live his life right and everything, and, kind of make up for lost time. He's trying to prove that he's not the person that, went to prison all of those years ago. But Tanika didn't care about none of that shit. She was on a mission to save her ass. So she gets her, opportunity to run into her cousin, and she was like, "Hey, what up, cuz? What's going on? Like, I need your help with something." And Kyle, he don't really know what's going on. So he's like, "All right, what's up?" And she tells him. And she's like, "Listen, I need you to find me a girl that resembles me, looks like me, but, she got to be a crackhead." And Kyle is confused. He's like, what the fuck? Uh, okay. So, Tanika's like, "Listen, don't worry about it. Just hook your cousin up." So Kyle's like, "All right, it's a bit of a strange request, but whatever." So a few days go by, and Kyle is out and he gets what his cousin asked for. He sees this crackhead strung out, and he's like, "Yo, she look a mess. She look a lot like my cousin. This'll work." So he hits up Tanika and he's like, "Hey, yo, I got this chick. You need to come see her." So they're driving through the streets, to Cleveland, and they meet a woman by the name of Melissa Latham. Melissa Rochelle Latham was born July 14th in Bedford, Ohio. I was trying to do some digging on her, but I couldn't really find too much. Like most of the stuff that I found was on like her social medias, like her Facebook. Um, And so what I did find on Facebook, like I know she had a son named Javon. She also has a daughter by the name of Janice or Janice. And I believe she has another son named Tony. Now, with what I did see on her social media, I know she graduated from Bedford High School and she also attended Cuyahoga Community College for a bit. I wonder if they attended at the same time. So apparently Javon is her fourth oldest. So I know she's got, at least four kids because obviously, duh, the mathing. But like I said, there's not too much on her social media. But what did occur was April 20th, 2001. Right before Tanika and her Mama T, were supposed to go to trial. Now, remember, Tanika had hit up Kyle and asked him to find a girl that looks like her. So that's when they came across Melissa. And at the time, Melissa was strung out on drugs like real bad. So late night, April 20th, 2001, Melissa, like I said, she's strung out. She's high, walking down Euclid Avenue when this red car pulls up. And inside the car was Kyle, Tanika, and another woman named Michelle Sharp. So they stop the car and Michelle gets out and she introduces herself and she was like, "You know what, yo, we got a little way you can make some money. You know what I'm saying? We doing this little insurance scam. You want in?" Now, they didn't tell her how much at first, but Melissa really didn't care. She was just like, "All right, cool. Money is money." So she gets in. So the four of them, they drive to Michelle Sharp's house where the money is supposed to be. Now, see, this is where you got me fucked up. I'm not getting in nobody's car and I don't know what my cut is. If I agree to do some crazy shit like this, I need to know how much I'm making up front because you ain't about to have me in your car driving me wherever you want and I don't know how much I'm making. No. Mm-mm. But this is not my story. So they go to the house, and Michelle supposedly gives Melissa $100. And they go to get some drugs from this guy named David Smith at Community Circle Apartments. And, David is like that nigga. Like, if you need something, you hit up David. He can hook you up with pretty much everything. Like, he can give you, you need some weed, he got you, if you need a little bit of hookup when it comes to the, hot pocket, he can find you a girl, he dibble and dabble in some stuff, you know what I'm saying? So they go to his apartment to, get some drugs and then they go and get something to eat. Now it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I can only assume that it's like Waffle House or something that's open because at 4 in the morning, baby, the only thing that's open is Waffle House, IHOP, and legs. But they all go out and they eat and they go drop Michelle off and then they go back to Tanika's house on Delmont Avenue where they take Melissa through this side door and it goes down to the basement, so they're down there in the basement, they're doing more drugs and all of that. When they get up the next morning, Tanika gives Melissa this purple Yale sweatshirt and some gloves. And she was like, "Hey, so you got to put this on." Y'all, the fact that she gave this girl a Yale sweatshirt is hilarious to me. Like, you are gonna ride this shit to the end. She gonna ride this shit to the wheels fall off. But she gives Melissa this Yale sweatshirt and these gloves. And Melissa, she gotta uphold her part. So she puts it on. Okay, so here's another thing that I gotta advise y'all on. It's late April in Ohio. It's hot. Okay. And Melissa is wearing a sweatshirt and freaking leather gloves. What in the entire hell? But everything's got a purpose for Tanika's goofy ass. So she do what she do. Tanika and Kyle, they explain the plan to Melissa and they tell her like, we gonna try to run this little insurance scam thing. So, what I need you to do is go with us to this dentist office. See, we gonna get you a dental appointment and I'm gonna get everything taken care of. All you gotta do is just get a regular cleaning and some x-rays, and I'm gonna take care of the rest. The minute somebody say all you gotta do, just know it's gonna be so much more that you gotta do. Okay. So Melissa hears this and she's like, all right, cool. That's what's up. $100 and she getting her teeth done for free and she ain't gotta pay for nothing. That sounds real easy. So Kyle takes them to the Pearl Dental practice in Strongsville. And when they get to the dentist's office, Tanika takes the paperwork and, she explains to Melissa that she's going to fill it out. So she puts her name and information all over it. And she gives Melissa some. I gotta stop drinking mimosas. She gives Melissa some cash to, pay for the appointment. And she tells the receptionist that she has to fill out the paperwork because Melissa isn't capable to do so because of the injury to her hands, that's the gloves. So Tanika is basically plotting her, grand escape. She's plotting le piece de resistance. She's thinking, this gonna be easy. I'm gonna put my name down on these papers, use Melissa's exams to make it look like me, kill this bitch, and the cops gonna think I'm dead. Boom. So obviously, it wasn't an insurance scam as Melissa thought it was, especially since Tanika paid with cash, according to the receptionist Allison Faribaugh. So everything goes off without a hitch. Melissa gets her teeth cleaned, does some x rays on her teeth, and now Tonica is ready to execute the next part of her plan. So she tells Melissa, yo, you did a good job. And she gives her $100 and she tells her, we gonna go to another dentist office and do it again if you want another $100. But we gotta do it tomorrow, girl. So why don't you just come back to the crib with us? We got some crack and everything, and we gonna drink, we gonna party, we gonna turn up. And Melissa is cool with it. So she goes and gets back in the car with them. They drive to this KFC, they get something to eat, and then they drive across town to go back to the house on Delmont. Now, everybody is drinking and everything, and Melissa, she is getting high with Kyle, and she ends up falling asleep. So they're all in the basement of Tanika's house. Is Tanika, Kyle, and Melissa. They sleep. Kyle and Tanika get up before Melissa the next morning. So when Melissa wakes up, they already up, they doing their thing. She go into the bathroom and she's trying to straighten herself up so that they could get ready to hit the next dental office. But when she gets ready to come out of the bathroom, all of a sudden Tanika's like, "Hold on, girl, we trying to set something up. Don't come out just yet." And so naturally Melissa's like, "Okay, that's a little weird, but all right, whatever." When she is finally able to come out of the bathroom, it's dark. She sees it's real dark in the basement. And she feels something like hit her in the face. And then the lights come on. Kyle grabs her and punches her dead in her face. Then he takes a brick and knocks her in the head. And instantly Melissa just like falls to the ground. Like she's a frail little thing. Like she's like, what the hell is going on? But before she can really think about it, Kyle and Tanika are kicking her and punching her. Kyle takes his knee while she's down and puts it in the back of her neck and takes the brick and just like rams it up against her head. Like they are literally destroying this girl. And Melissa, she's confused. She's dazed. She's coming down off of a high. She can feel this shit. She's trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But, she's got two people on her, literally. Kyle still has her pinned down, and Tanika is hitting her and biting her. Yes, y'all, she is biting her like a dumbass, leaving her teeth prints in this girl's body. So she's biting her and she's calling her all kind of bitches and hoes and fuck you, bitch, you dumbass bitch, die, bitch, all kind of crazy shit. And Melissa, she's losing consciousness, but not before Tanika takes it a step further. See, Kyle still got this brick. So he hits Melissa in the head for the third time. And Melissa's like, ah, fuck. Like she can feel it. It's hurting so bad. And she knows she gotta think fast. So she plays dead. And Tanika, this bitch thinks that she's passed out. So she's like, all right, cool. She goes and gets a needle and gets some insulin and like just starts injecting it into Melissa's body. Like she's just stabbing her over and over again in different parts of her body and pumping her full of insulin. Like a bona fide crazy person. And Melissa, she's clinging to life at this point. So Tanika takes a break and she's like, all right, time to do this thing. I'ma put my ankle monitor on her. We about to roll this bitch up in the rug and take her next door and burn her ass alive. And Kyle, he's like, whoa, hold up. What the fuck you just say? I don't know nothing about burning no bitches alive. We didn't talk about that, fam. So the minute that Tanika went upstairs, he's like, "Man, what the fuck this girl done got me into?" He think Melissa's dead because she done stopped moving. No, Melissa, although she was on drugs and high, she's smart. She wasn't dead. She was pretending because she knew it would be a way to get them to stop, hitting her and abusing her. And it works because when she stopped moving, Tanika went upstairs to go get the stuff that she needed to get rid of her body. And Kyle was like, "Yeah, fuck this shit, I'm out." So the minute that Melissa got her opportunity, she took it upon herself. Like there was this spoon that was downstairs in the basement from the night before when all of them were getting high. And even though she's like in excruciating pain, she's laying there, she's pretending to be dead. She's still, feeling all these needle marks and shit, but she's still pushing to make it out alive. So she goes over to this door and she takes the spoon that she used to get high with and she uses it to pry open the door. Now, remember, Tanika is still upstairs, and Tanika happens to have these pit bulls, right? But that don't mean a damn thing to Melissa because, at this point, her adrenaline is pumping. She's in fight or flight mode. Like she knows she only got a couple of minutes. Like honestly, not even that. She only has a couple of seconds to get up out of that house before Tanika kills her. Because if Tanika comes back downstairs and sees that she's alive, ain't no telling what she gonna do. So she gathers what little strength she has left and she bolts it. Like, I mean, she is running for her life. She runs right past Tanika and them dogs, gets outside, and runs across the street to the closest business, which happened to be a KFC. So she runs into the KFC. She's beat up, broken, bruised, bloodied, all of that. And she's crying for help. She's like, please call 911. I've been attacked. Please call 911. And KFC employee is shook. They're like, yo, what the fuck? So, of course, they call 911. And as soon as they do, Melissa passes out. And so, the cops get there and the ambulance gets there. They're trying to revive Melissa. They're asking her questions. And in walks Tanika. But Tanika comes in there dressed up, like all bougie and shit. Like, y'all, I swear this bitch got multiple personalities. Okay. Because she come running into the restaurant and she's like, that's that bitch that stole my fucking $1,000. That's that bitch right there. And the cops are like, what? So, Melissa's sitting on a fucking stretcher, y'all, like laid out, still bloodied, still bruised, all of that, beat the fuck up. And Tanika's like, this bitch stole my money. This bitch stole my money. Sweetheart, if she stole your money, how is it that she the only one that's bloodied and bruised and you ain't got a scratch on you? Well, actually she did, but I'll get into that in a minute. So, okay, disregard that statement. But anyway, so with Tanika coming in there dressed like, she just got off of a 9 to 5, the cops are a little confused, especially after she just accused Melissa of stealing her money. But they didn't want to take anything to chance, so they decide to go ahead and transport Melissa to the hospital. She gets taken to Huron Road Hospital, and meanwhile, the cops are talking to Tanika, asking her questions. Tanika gives this whole story about how her cousin Kyle had come back to the house and, how he had brought this girl with him and how everybody had gotten drunk. And, the girl just like took advantage of him and stole his money and stole hers too. And then just, took off running, which really don't make no sense because Melissa is like beaten badly. So she took off running unless she ran through a fucking field of, bats and nails and shit. Like it don't make sense. But cops are listening and everything. And so Melissa is back at Huron Road Hospital. Y'all, she ends up slipping into a coma. Dr. George Stevens and his team, they're trying to do everything that they can to stabilize her and to keep her conscious. And when they finally do, she starts talking and she's telling them everything that happened to her. She's like, "Listen, I'm not a diabetic. This girl stuck me with all of this insulin." And Dr. Stevens, he's concerned when he hears this, so he ends up ordering a round of tests to get done. One of which was the C peptide test. It actually detects the levels of insulin in your body. And so, of course, when he did that test, it showed the normal level, which was kind of weird because, your body produces its own insulin, but Melissa's was a little off. And so it proved that she had to have had it, injected into her. So at this point, Melissa is coherent enough to answer questions. The cops get there. They're like, look, we need you to tell us what the hell is going on. What happened? And Melissa's like, "Huh, gladly. That crazy bitch told me that she was going to give me money to help her with an insurance scam. That was the only reason I was there. I ain't steal no money from nobody. I went over there because she said she would give me $100. We was going to do a little, crack cocaine if I helped her with this insurance scam at the dentist office. So I went with her to the dentist office and then she gave me the money. And, we go back to the crib. Next thing I know, I'm being hit over the head with a brick and punched in my face like I'm a rag doll, like I'm some fucking man." And so the cops are like, "An insurance scam, huh? Hmm. Okay, tell us more." And so she tells them everything. And they send two officers to go talk to Tanika. They send Officer Anthony Tamaro and Officer Ellison. They go over to Tanika's house and they're outside knocking. Boom, 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 boom. But Tanika ain't answering. Now, the only reason they knew where the house was is because Melissa told them, "Look, there's a house over there by where y'all found me. Y'all need to go over there. It's got a pool of blood in the basement, and there's a blood-stained brick. That is Tanika's house." So cops, they're calling Tanika and they're like, "Look, we just need to come in and, look and see some things." And Tanika actually agreed. She was like, "Well, I guess, but y'all gotta wait a few minutes because my parents is at home and it takes them a couple of minutes to get to the door because, they elderly." So when Tanika's Mama T, answers the door, cops walk in and the first thing they smell is bleach. Girl, why would you? Oh, you stupid. First thing they smell is bleach. Like completely overpowering them. Okay. They go downstairs and they see Mama T standing at the bottom of the stairs with this bloodstained rag. And, they're like, what you doing? She was like, "Oh, these daggum dogs, they done made a mess down here. I'm just trying to clean up after them." And they're looking and they see blood on the floor, the wall, a table, but it ain't no dog shit. And so immediately they knew something was wrong. Like when they went back and hit that joint with luminol, oh, it lit up like a Christmas tree. People, if you learn nothing else, please understand that luminol is going to get you caught up every single time. Ain't enough bleach in the world to mask it from luminol. Luminol going to catch you and be like, "Gotcha, bitch." And it lit up like a Christmas tree down in that basement. So the officers, they get a search warrant for the house and they seize the filing cabinet. They take a couple of rugs from the basement because both of those had blood on them. And then they take two syringes, a crack pipe, a spoon, and some documents that had Tanika's name and her social security number on them. So they do some digging after they get everything and they see, hmm, little Miss Tanika Jenkins got a bit of a record here. And so does her cousin Kyle. Now, remember, Kyle had left before, and he kind of got away from everything before it got a little too crazy, but the nigga was still, involved. So it took them a little bit of time to locate him, but when they do, they see he's outside. He's with this 2-year-old at this park, and they're like, "All right, there you go." So they come up to him and they're like, "Kyle Martin?" And he's like, "Yeah, what's up?" And they were like, "Hey, we need to talk." And Kyle is like, "All right, what's up?" And so they say, do you know somebody by the name of Melissa? Melissa Latham? And he was like, I don't know. And they said, okay, well, she is accusing you and your cousin Tanika of trying to kill her. Immediately Kyle is, rattling off shit. Man, she don't know what you talking about. I don't know what y'all talking about. I ain't trying to kill nobody. And they said, okay, so you do know her. All right, cool. So what happened then? Man, look, man, I wasn't trying to kill nobody. Like, I know her. Like, I was with her. She came to kick it with me and my cousin, but I ain't do no shit like that. Like, I just got out of prison not too long ago. My cousin, she asked me to help her out. So yeah, I mean, the chick came back to the crib with us and we was kicking it and everything. But yo, she tried to steal my money. She tried to steal from me and my cousin. So like I hit her over the head with a radio, but that's about it. I ain't trying to kill nobody. And the cops they thinking the same thing I am. Like, you got to be this is a family of dumbass criminals. Like, why would you tell the cops that you hit somebody over the head with a radio? Like, nigga, they already know what the fuck you really did. But that was what came to your mind to lie and say you assaulted somebody. So you admit assault to the police. Okay. So, Kyle is sitting up here rattling off these little lies or whatever, and the police are like, where'd you get them scratches from? He got scratches all on his face and his hands. Like, so what's that about? And Kyle, he got this little 2-year-old with him now. It was never confirmed that this was his child because for me the math ain't math. And like if you just got out of prison, there's no way possible for you to have a 2-year-old unless you was getting conjugal visits and Kyle definitely was not married. Okay. So Kyle is like, "Oh, yeah, this my 2-year-old. I got the scratches from them. These little kids be rowdy. Nigga ain't no 2-year-old scratching you like that. I got a little one and the homie's nails be growing out all the time and he don't scratch me that bad to the point that I got that many scratches. Nah, unless your baby is Chucky. No. But, they already know he's lying. So he tells him, like, yeah, I hit her. So, if y'all gonna charge me, then I guess shit, do what you gotta do. And they were like, cool, you're under arrest. So I don't know if he was like trying to take the heat off of Tanika or what, but I was like, nigga, that was the dumbest lie you could have told. So you got Melissa at the hospital and she's recovering. You got Tanika, she telling the police anything that she can think of, and she putting it off on her cousin and all of that. They're searching her property. And then you got Tanika's mama, Mama T, and she trying to clean everything up. So they decide, get all their asses. They get Tanika, her mama, and Kyle. All of them are in custody and arrested. This is just like this is like a clusterfuck of problems, like a whole trifecta in this joint, okay? So they're arrested and charged with attempted murder. Now, Tanika's mama, Mama T, she's charged with obstruction of justice for cleaning up the blood. Tanika, she gets charged with attempted murder, tampering with evidence, attempted aggravated murder, complicity for aggravated murder, and kidnapping. And, like I said, I don't know if Kyle was trying to, cover for his cousin or what, but yeah, that didn't last too long. So, April 27th of 2001, Tanika Jenkins and her mother, Tonica Clement, they still have to go to trial in Florida for them drug charges. Tanika, she gets 24 years in federal prison. Her mama, Tonica, she gets sentenced to 14 years, which is fucking crazy to me because Tonica was the one that was doing everything. Like the videos that I saw, Tonica was the one that had the bag with the money. Tonica was the one that cut the dope open and was in there taste testing crack cocaine. Like she was the one that was setting all of this up. So how she got less time than Tanika is beyond me, but I guess whatever. On May 11th, 2001, Kyle gets indicted. Now, he was assigned David Grant as an attorney, as his court appointed attorney, but David withdrew after citing scheduling conflicts and disagreements with Kyle about strategy and motions that were supposed to be filed regarding the defense of the charges. So, because of this, John Stainerd and Darren Thompson from the Cuyahoga County's Public Defender's Office, they get assigned to represent Kyle. But once again, problems start happening between the two about, appropriate, possibly meritorious pretrial motions. So the judge asked Kyle if it was, his intention to act on his own behalf and to, basically be his own lawyer. And he stated that it was not his intention, but that he did intend to file motions on his behalf as they suited his perceived interests. Judge is like, this motherfucker. So basically, Kyle wanted to run the show and basically have his attorneys as his puppets. And the attorneys were like, yeah, that's not a smart idea, dude. So the judge, he split the baby down the middle and he said, all right, cool. This is what I'm going to do. Kyle, you can represent yourself, but you're going to have your attorneys there for access just in case. Kind of like the Imani Moss case where the crazy ass stepmama decided to represent herself, but the judge was like, yeah, you can represent yourself how you want to, but you still gonna have these two attorneys here because you're not about to, try to throw this shit in my face later. So Kyle was like, all right, cool. And he also had to understand that he would be subjected to, cross examinations and all of that just as much as he was able to examine and cross examine. So on the day of the trial, Kyle goes before Judge Jose A. Villanueva. He moved to have new lawyers appointed because, according to him, John Stainerd and Darren Thompson were unwilling to press matters that he thought should be explored, like various objections that he had to the form or substance of his indictments. He stated that he did not have proper access to legal research materials and that he didn't understand the law. And so the judge, gave him the choice of either representing himself with the assistance of his lawyers as standby or letting his lawyers represent him, which is what the fuck he should have did in the first place, with the understanding that he could contribute to his defense whenever he so chose. So he made his own opening and closing statements. And surprisingly, he got the judge to dismiss the conspiracy to commit murder count because it was quote unquote facially defective. Now, at the trial, this guy named Charles Moore, who was an inmate that was locked up with Kyle, he testifies. And he basically flips on Kyle. Like he tells the courts, yeah, look, I was locked up with this boy, and Kyle told me that he and his cousin was gonna find a lookalike to kill her so that his cousin wouldn't have to do any time. Ha! Damn, homie. What the fuck happened to you? That was your man's, homie. Yeah, it be your own people. Like homie snitched. He was like, "Nah, nigga, you ain't gonna get off that easy." And then Melissa testifies, and she tells the court, she was like, "Listen, when I came out that door, I felt Kyle swinging, and I'm asking, why are y'all doing this to me? What did I do? They're hitting me, they're punching me. He hit me in the head with the brick like 3 times. And that's when Tanika, she grabbed the brick and she hit me 2 more times. And all of a sudden I felt needles going into my body." And Melissa's telling him all of this. She's telling him how she's being stuck so that she could be forced to be, to pass out. And she's like, Lord, I just got to play dead because if I don't play dead, I'm really going to be dead. And then Melissa tells the jury, Tanika was telling Kyle, this is your cousin right here. We gonna get this ankle bracelet off of me and put it on her. Then she gonna be me and I'm gonna be dead. And she was like, we gonna take her to this abandoned apartment next door and burn her up. All they gonna have to identify her is her dental records. Now, clearly Tanika wasn't expecting Melissa to remember all of that. Remember, she thought she was passed out the whole time. Nope. Melissa was playing dead. She was being smart. So now, because Kyle did not actually try to kill Melissa, he was charged with attempted murder, but they ended up acquitting him of that. He did get charged for the kidnapping though, and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. So all of that shit about him trying to do right and all of that, his ass went right the fuck back. That's what it did. That right went right the fuck back. Now, Tanika, she got the brunt of it. Tanika had to go to Tampa, Florida first. Like I said, they had to do their trial there in Florida for the drug charges. So she was sentenced to 24 years for the drug conviction on August 8th of 2001. It was then where Kyle was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not going to protect her no more. And he ended up flipping like a pancake. He pointed the finger at her and he told the prosecutors about how she was the one that wanted to kill Melissa so that she could make it look like she had died. So she ends up going back to Ohio for her trial for the attempted murder charge. And she's found guilty of tampering with evidence, guilty of attempted aggravated murder, guilty of complicity, aggravated murder, and guilty of kidnapping. For those five counts, she's sentenced to 20 years in prison. Now, she was facing 30, but the judge, Judge Green, actually gave her 20 and made sure that she ran it concurrent so that the sentence that she had in Florida. In February of 2003, both Tanika Jenkins and Tonica Mama T, they go before Judge Lilly and Judge Jay Green in Cuyahoga County, Ohio. Now, there were several continuances and speedy trial waivers, so Tanika ended up having a jury trial. That's how she got sentenced to so much. Okay. Now, at Tanika's trial, Michelle Sharp testified that she was actually recruited first to do the insurance scam. She was also addicted to drugs and alcohol at that time. And she was, really interested in getting some money. But because she didn't fit the look, Tanika and Kyle turned her down, but they asked her to, kind of hook them up with some help. So her Mama T, Tonica Clement, she was found guilty of obstruction of justice and was ultimately sentenced to time served. So she didn't have to do any additional time for that for Ohio, but she damn sure had to go to Florida for them drug charges. Um, like I said, Tanika Jenkins, she was tried on attempted murder charges, found guilty, and sentenced to 10 years in prison for attempted aggravated murder, 4 years for the felonious assault, 4 years for kidnapping, 6 years for complicity to commit aggravated murder, and 2 years for each count of the tampering with evidence convictions to run concurrent with each other. The court ordered the 4 years for kidnapping to be served consecutively to the 6 years for complicity to commit aggravated murder. They also ordered that that they aggregate 10 years for kidnapping and the complicity aggravated murder to be served consecutive to the 10 years for attempted aggravated murder. I know this is a lot of terminology being thrown at y'all. My bad. Okay. Basically, they're gonna make sure that her ass isn't doing them together, like where she gets sentenced to 20 years in Ohio and then 24 in Florida. They're gonna make sure she does that full 44. Okay. So it's not gonna be a situation where the 20 eats up the 24, or rather the 24 eats up the 20, nothing like that. Okay. So Shotty Girl gonna be in federal prison for a while. Tanika Jenkins was sent to the Ohio Reformatory for Women and was there until March 15th of 2023, where she was then transferred to the Florida prison. Currently, it states that she's eligible for parole on February 21st, 2039. Her last parole hearing was April of 2022, and it was denied. In 2003, Kyle Martin filed his first appeal with the help of his attorneys, Gregory Scott Robbie and Margaret Amer. It was based on insufficient inquiry to ensure that Kyle voluntarily and intelligently waived his right to counsel in undertaking his own defense, and that he was not required to sign a written waiver of counsel. They requested a new trial and they were actually granted one, surprisingly. But yeah, he was once again found guilty. In 2007, he filed another appeal through his public defender, David Boddicker, based on the fact that he claims that the judge failed to adequately secure an intelligent and voluntary waiver of his right to counsel. The guilty verdict was supposedly against the manifest weight of the evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct necessitates remand for a new trial, blah, blah, blah. Remember, Kyle was indicted for tampering with evidence, attempted murder, kidnapping, tampering with records, and conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. But here's the thing: the courts dismissed the charges of tampering with evidence and tampering with records. And then, after another 24 hours, they ended up dismissing the conspiracy to commit aggravated murder charge. So ultimately, all but the kidnapping charge was dismissed, which was a very good thing for him because he was facing a lot more time. But the state then turned around and said, "You know what? We not done with you, nigga." They turned around and charged Kyle's ass again with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, insurance fraud, and attempted theft. The insurance fraud and attempted theft were new charges, which was a little weird to me. But the charge for the conspiracy to commit aggravated murder was what he had been charged with before, and they had dismissed it. So it was weird that they kind of like recharged it. The charges were consolidated and tried together with the kidnapping charge. And so that's how the jury found Kyle guilty of conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, not guilty of insurance fraud, not guilty of attempted theft, and once again, he was found guilty of kidnapping. At the sentencing, Kyle requested a merger of the conspiracy and kidnapping counts, but it was denied. So he was sentenced to 5 years on the conspiracy count and the maximum of 10 years on the kidnapping count. The sentences were ordered to be served consecutively, which once again means back to back, one after the other. And in sentencing him to the maximum term on the kidnapping, the judge said, "I cannot imagine a more serious form of kidnapping than to hold someone for the purpose of extinguishing her life." He also said that the victim was held for purpose of causing her harm and eventually for the purpose of causing her demise. So in his appeal, Kyle's attorney argues that collateral, estoppel, double jeopardy, like they are really trying it. And the appeals court actually agreed, but only to an extent because they said that it did not necessarily relieve Kyle from the consequences of his voluntary choices. So they were like, "Yeah, it's double jeopardy, but that don't mean that you're gonna get away with it though, punk." So the appeal was ultimately denied, and the judge tells him Mr. Martin was a knowing co conspirator and active participant in a scheme concocted by his cousin, Tonica Jenkins, and his aunt, Tonica Clement, to fake his cousin's death so she could escape a federal prosecution. The plan was to find a woman similar in appearance and age to Miss Jenkins and under the name Tonica Jenkins have her attend doctor's appointments in order to create a medical file. Once sufficient medical records existed, the three intended to kill the victim and burn her body so that the women's medical records would be used to identify her remains as those of Miss Jenkins. The objective was to feign Miss Jenkins' death in order to evade a federal criminal indictment related to drug possession and or trafficking. Now, at this very trial, this man, Mr. Martin, is going to argue that while his cousin asked him to locate a female participant for a scheme, when he and Miss Jenkins enlisted the services of Melissa Latham, the victim, he understood that she would be using Miss Latham to perpetuate some type of insurance fraud. He claimed to be unaware of any plot to kill the victim until Miss Jenkins attempted to kill her with an overdose of insulin. This, sir, is absurd. This, sir, is heinous. This, sir, is not of God. Y'all know they be serious up there. Much like Kyle, Tanika too filed an appeal. Yeah, okay. In 2003, Tanika, along with her attorney, Michael T. Fisher, they appealed the convictions in the sentencing. Tanika and her attorney argued that the trial court violated her constitutional right to due process by allowing the state's witnesses to offer an in court identification of her after the witness's identification was tainted by an unfairly suggestive photo array. Basically, what they said is that okay, there were two pictures that were shown. One was of Tanika, and the other one was of Tanika's mama, Mama T. So they're trying to say, okay, well, it was easy for them to point it to me because you only showed two pictures. So it kind of looked, I guess you could say, suggestive. Her attorney also argued that the trial court made an error when it didn't allow the defense counsel to question the receptionist, Miss Faribault, about her ability to identify individuals of a different race or ethnicity. She also argued that she was denied her right to effective assistance of counsel because her attorney failed to pursue the suppression of identification testimony. She said that she was denied her right to effective assistance of counsel because her attorney failed to raise the issue of speedy trial. She talked about how the trial court prevented her attorney from fully cross examining certain witnesses, claiming that the trial court made an error when it refused to allow her counsel to cross examine Faribault. She claimed that she should have been permitted to question Faribault about the number of minority patients at Pearl Dental Practice, all of this. She even argued that the trial court violated her due process rights by allowing her cousin, Kyle Martin, to testify, even though the court had noticed that he intended to, assert his Fifth Amendment right against self incrimination. But she's like, the state acted improperly by presenting evidence that I failed to contact the police to give a statement by raising inflammatory questions during the redirect examination of an unidentified witness, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Those were the areas that she tried to argue in the appeal. And, the state took it into consideration. They thought on it. And they thought, and they think and think. Sorry, couldn't help it. But they thought about it and they were like, yeah, bitch, you tried it. You stand your ass in that prison. Sat in that jail. Sat in that jail. Damn near done about rot to death. I'm sorry, y'all. I really got to stop drinking these mimosas. So yeah, they told her she was gonna stay. In fact, the state told her, Miss Jenkins, the sentence that I'm gonna give you, I feel is commensurate and would not demean the seriousness of the offenses which you've been found guilty of. You committed, in my view, the worst form of attempted aggravated murder. You conspired or planned with others to commit murder, and you had no hesitancy about committing this act whatsoever. Further, you pose the greatest likelihood of committing future crimes, not only based upon your dastardly acts committed in this crime, but also based upon your past. You present as a narcissistic predator preying on the vulnerable to save your own self. You have no regard for this woman's suffering or her pain in this case. The method that you use to ploy your prey, that is, the crack cocaine, probably saved her life. And your plan once again exposed. So it is the court's sentence as follows. So, yeah, that's it. That was that. Tanika's ass is still in prison. Melissa is now moved on in her life and she's thriving. She's being a mother to her kids. She even, she's a grandmother now. I did a little, like I said, I did a little dive on her social media and her Facebook and I saw she even got a little bit of a boo thing going. They was in the pictures smooching and whatnot. I'm like, okay, go ahead, Melissa. I see you, boo. You better live your life. It says that she's working at the Cleveland Clinic, but I honestly don't know how accurate that is. Sometimes people will post, where they work on social media and like they be like, "Oh, I work at home," or "Oh, I work for Jesus." I've seen some crazy stuff. So I don't know if she actually works there or not, but that ain't my business. She seems to be, happy and living her life though, which is great. Kyle, he's out of prison now. I don't know what the hell he's doing with his life, and honestly, I could give two fiddly fucks. Hopefully he got his shit together because he got off real easy beating a woman like that. Like you got off super easy, my boy. Tanika Jenkins, she's still in prison and she's not scheduled for release until 2039. Mama T, Tonica Clement, she's also out living low. She did her 14 years. That's a smart woman and she living low because bitch, you deserve so much more than what you got. So much more. All right, y'all. So now it is time for Fair or Foul, where we look at the sentencing given by the justice system to determine how fair it really is. All right, let's start with Mama T, Tonica Clement. She got 14 years for the drug charges, but got time served for obstruction of justice. I call foul on that because I do feel like she could have been given a harsher sentence and, a harsher conviction. Like she was the root of all of this. She taught Tanika everything she knew. She was a con artist and her daughter became one too. Like the apple does not fall far from the tree. You had 70 grand to go and buy keys of cocaine, but you didn't think, all right, let me pay this $15,000 in restitution that my daughter done racked up from fraud charges. Not only that, but mama, you could have sat back and said, when your daughter said that she was trying to get into Yale, get that bitch evaluated because obviously she was off her rocker. You could have said, hey, Tanika, there's no way that you can get into Yale right now because you haven't even gone to college and gotten your damn bachelor's degree. So how you going to try to go and get your master's degree in neurobiology when you haven't even gotten a bachelor's degree? Seriously, you are the roots of all of this. I really feel like Tonica should have been given more charges and a harsher sentence because 14 years in prison, it wasn't enough. It honestly wasn't. Had you stopped this shit from jump, your daughter wouldn't have never got herself in that situation and Melissa's life wouldn't have been on the line. Not only that, but even after she did what she did, you tried to help her cover it up. The girl felt comfortable enough to call you to say, "Hey, ma, I need your help. It's blood everywhere." And you actually was down there cleaning that shit. Are you out of your fucking mind? I definitely call foul on that one. As to Kyle's sentencing, again, I call foul. He knew from jump. You can't sit up there and say, "Oh, you ain't say nothing about killing nobody." You knew from jump that Tanika was gonna kill that girl, or at least try to anyway. Like you got lucky getting 10 years. You got off real lucky. You beat this woman. You beat a woman within an inch of her life. You didn't know her from a can of paint, but because your cousin came to you and said, "Hey, I need you to find a girl that look like me," you picked this girl up off the streets. You knew when y'all went back to that house what it was. Even if Tanika didn't outright say, "Hey, I'ma kill this bitch," you knew the minute that you put your hands on her when you was punching her in the face and hitting her in the fucking head with a brick that she could have easily been killed. Tanika didn't have to stick her with freaking needles and insulin and shit because she could have easily died with you hitting her like she was a fucking grown man. You could have easily killed her by hitting her in the head with them bricks. So I don't want to hear that bullshit about, "Oh, I ain't know she was gonna do it. I don't know why I'm being charged with attempted murder." That's what the fuck you get. You should have got more than 10 years, you bastard. You drove her to the dental office to participate in that crime. You are just as guilty as your dumbass cousin. You watched her poke her over and over and damn near kill her with them damn needles and insulin and shit, and did not try to stop her not one time. You sat there and watched. You participated just as much as she did. Just because you didn't, actually poke her with the needle or whatever, or just because you didn't, I can't even say you didn't because you did shit. You and Tanika did everything. Like you had a chance to stop it. And it wasn't until she said, "Oh, we gonna put her in this carpet and roll up her body and go burn her." Then that's when you was like, "Nah, I can't do that." Why the fuck not? Shit, you did everything else. But thankfully, the cops realized what was going on when they see them scratches all over your body and your hands and your face. You deserve more than 10 years. So, for your sake, I really hope you got your shit together right now. Like, I really do. Because if you don't, third strike, your ass is out. Now, when it comes to Tanika, I think that the drug sentencing, that was definitely fair. 24 years, that's what your dumb ass get. You ain't El Chapo, you ain't Griselda Blanco, you ain't none of that. Yo freaking uh, I I feel like in her mind, she thought it was gonna work. Like, obviously, in her mind, she said, "Okay, I can do this." Baby, sweetheart, you have no skill in being a drug dealer. Like, and ooh, woo. Like I said, the drug sentencing definitely fair, but she should have gotten more time for the attempted murder charge. Like the fact that you had 5 counts and you were only given 20 years for 5 counts. I understand that, there's a system to things. I understand that there's a way to do things and that you have to maximize, certain things. But this girl is a career criminal. Not a good one, but still, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know there's limitations when it comes to certain charges, like attempted murder, but I really do feel like attempted murder, with as far as she got with it, with as far as it went with, Melissa being stuck, you basically gave this girl diabetes. Like, come on, you pumped her full of insulin, you hit her in the head with a brick, you was punching and biting and shit. You sat there and did some premeditated shit. That was premeditated murder, not just murder, but premeditated murder that you was trying to commit. You was trying to get her up out of here so that you could go and live your happy little fairy tale life. Like, you could have just paid the 15 grand in restitution. Like, come on, your mama had 70,000. She had enough to take y'all asses to Florida. Why not just say, hey, mama, let me get 15 grand? Because clearly this bitch gonna do whatever you ask her to. Clearly this girl is gonna sit up here and say, all right, let's go to Florida. Let's go sell these drugs like a dummy instead of just saying, "Hey, baby, no, you need to own up to what you did. Accountability. Like, you did all of this. What was the reason, huh?"
Reason.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the
I had
reason?
a reason.
What was the
I just
reason?
explained. I just explained the reason.
What was the reason, bitch?
I don't need to explain myself to you. And
What
these
was
have
the reason?
Like, why go to such lengths to try to kill somebody? What was your plan once the authorities thought you were dead? I'm curious about that. Like, once you killed this girl, provided that you were successful, once you killed her and had to go to trial, what was your plan? Were you gonna move? Because you couldn't keep your happy ass in Ohio. Like, just because you committed the crime in Florida doesn't mean that nobody is gonna not recognize you, stupid. Like, were you just gonna go to the islands? Was you gonna go to Cuba? What the fuck was you gonna do? Because eventually somebody gonna recognize you, or with the way that your track record is, you gonna fuck up and go to Florida. Like, you strike me as the type of person that'll kill somebody to avoid going to prison in Florida and then turn around and go to Florida and go to Miami or some shit for I can't even say for spring break because your dumb ass got kicked out of school. But you strike me as the type of person that do some shit like that. Be like, ooh, girls trip to Miami, and you supposed to be dead. Like, the fuck? I swear, some people, ooh, this girl make a wall look smart. I'm sorry, y'all. Anyway, that is all for this week's episode of the Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. Y'all know the deal. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. And that's a number one, by the way, not spelled out. You can leave a review there. On Twitter, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. If you notice, I keep saying leave a review because duh, leave a review. On Facebook, you can send a friend request to the page, The Infamous Ones. Like I said earlier, due to no activity, I'm getting rid of the Facebook group. It'll be gone by September, like probably 15th or so. But you can still send a friend request to the regular page. Yeah, that thing is non-active and it's just taking up space and nobody's doing anything in there. So yeah, if y'all follow me, then y'all know that y'all can follow the Infamous Ones and it'll notify you whenever there's a new episode. So you don't have to worry about, checking the group to see if I posted new episode available. Just follow on, either Spotify or Apple Podcasts and it'll notify you whenever there's a new episode. Speaking of that, the show does stream on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on, especially if you're leaving a review. It only takes a couple of seconds, okay? Y'all, please leave these reviews. I need those to stay up. Speaking of reviews, let's look at a couple of them. One is from Later for You Guys. And It is from Apple Podcasts. It says, "Where have you been, sis?" Kay, where have you been? I have caught up on all of the episodes, so congratulations on the wedding and such. I was so worried that you had gotten discouraged about the podcast, so you can expect the joy and excitement when I saw this was a new episode that was downloaded for me. When I'm listening to you, I promise it is like talking to my good girlfriend. I find myself talking to you, and I wonder if those around me think I'm crazy. I love the ad libs that you add. I pray you may make successes in this arena. I'm also going to search up your literary works as well because your storytelling is superb. Many blessings to you and yours. Oh, thank you. Yes, for those of you that forgot, I am also a wonderful published best-selling author. You can check out my books at mzk.com. That's M as in Mary, Z K A Y E.com, mzk.com. This next review is also from Apple Podcasts from Xantoria22, and it says, "I love your podcast." It says, "I love the infamous ones. I listen all the time, and I love all of your memes. Cardi B's, what was the reason? And my favorite one, Denzel. You know you done fucked up, right? But you have brought so much light into these moments of true crime. Please don't ever stop. I love all of it." Ah, thank you. Okay, I did need to clarify on something though. Zantoria22, thank you so much for the review. I really appreciate it. I did want to clarify. The you know you done fucked up. That didn't come from Denzel Washington with his fine self. It actually came from the movie Menace to Society. If y'all remember when Kane had gotten taken to the police station over that broken bottle of beer when his boy shot the owner or whatever. And dude had him in the interrogation room, was like, "So you bought the beer at 11:45?" And Kane was like, I bought the beer and then I dropped it." And he was like, "You know you done fucked up. You know you done fucked up, right?" That's where that came from. So appreciate the love though, of course, of course, of course. If you want to support the show or if you're feeling the spirit, like I know I'm feeling these mimosas tonight that I've been sipping on, go ahead and click at the bottom of the screen. There's a link where, from whatever app you're listening to, where you can hit listener support to subscribe. I want to say they start at like 99 cents. You can also donate via Cash App to Infamous One Pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. The donations do go toward keeping the show going. And of course, my snacks, shout out to the snack people that drop a few dollars on the snacks each week. But it does mainly go towards, keeping the show going because there's a lot of research that goes into these episodes. You got to get court documents. Sometimes I have to pay for, transcripts, or I have to pay for, records that you can't just access online because I like to be thorough and really give y'all the information that you don't, that you're not going to hear about on Snapped or For My Man or, something like that, because not all of that information is valid. And some of that stuff is, kind of made up for the entertainment purposes. So I like to get it as in depth as possible with mine. Um, if you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, or if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you want to leave a review, please send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. Once again, people, please share, share, share. Of course, the podcast is getting bigger and bigger. Those streams are getting bigger and bigger, larger and larger. The numbers, I'm loving it. So if you can, please leave a review. I know it may be asking a lot for some, but for me, it's not asking too much. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week with a new episode. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.